Hey folks, my name is Dr. Amy Pearlman. I'm a board certified urologist with expertise in sexual, hormonal, and genitourinary health. And welcome to today's interview. I have Jeff Bennett here with us today. And Jeff, I'm loving your background right now. Can you please talk to us about what is in your background? Is that little bunny?
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed it. It's part of our branding. But yeah, you actually see a rabbit there, trying to run as fast as it can and someone trying to hold it back. We also have another character that's a turtle that's kind of laying back, loving life, all things good. But it's regarding our branding. As we'll talk about in the podcast, we believe this topic is something that's serious, but at the same time, you got to joke about it before people will open up and willing to have a conversation about sexual health in general or about ejaculation. So we want to have a playful yet serious tone, and that's what you see behind me is the product name MOR, and then the characters there.
Awesome. So you have the bunny behind you, and I have my little puppy here with me. My puppy is part of my branding.
Oh, that's cute. That's awesome. That's awesome. There you go. Well, I don't have a real rabbit. Actually, my daughter has a real rabbit at home, and we had to do some biocompatibility tests, and we had to unfortunately test them on rabbits. So I tried to see if she'd sacrifice her rabbit, but she's like, absolutely not. I love you, Dad. I love what you're doing, but you're not taking Nugget, and doing any testing on him. So.
So Jeff is the CEO and co-founder of Morari, which is an innovative company that's focused on sexual health. And the topic or the focus of today's interview is going to be on premature ejaculation, which you alluded to is a very sensitive topic for men all over the world. In fact, some people would say it is the most common sexual dysfunction globally. Now, in my clinical practice, I see some guys who come in with premature ejaculation. More of my patients come in with erectile dysfunction, which I don't think it's because it's not uncommon. I think it's because a lot of men are not coming in to see people like me. So I think this discussion on innovative therapies is going to be helpful because most people with PE probably never see a healthcare provider.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm just astounded on how many men suffer from this condition and how silent people are. And it's forums such as what you're doing, what we're trying to do from an innovation standpoint, that's really going to, I think, help. I think sexual health and wellness overall is making huge strides in the marketplace, right? The fact that you can go to Target or Walmart or Walgreens or practices such as yours and get everything from vibrators to penis rings to PE products is great. We need more of that. But there's a lot of challenges in getting that message out, whether it's social media or other channels that need to be removed. Those barriers need to be removed. But all things good on sexual health and wellness, and we're really happy about what we're doing. But again, there's millions of men out there and their partners that suffer from this issue. So I'm glad we have the opportunity to talk to you about it today.
So, for the purposes of today's discussion, to give people some context, when we talk about the term premature ejaculation, there are various definitions floating out there. And some guidelines would say a man ejaculates within 1 to 2 minutes of penovaginal intercourse, and it creates bother for the patient and or his partner. So, how do you want to define premature ejaculation for today's discussion?
Yeah, we look at it as if it is bothersome, right? Whether that's 30 seconds, a minute, two, four, 10, whatever. I'm not a big fan of the actual time definitions because, as you know, the different societies have different guidelines or time recommendations, and ultimately it's not about the time. Some people may want to ejaculate early, and their partner may want that as well. So if it's bothersome, if it causes stress, anxiety in the relationship, then we think that's the proper definition.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with that. When I see guys in my clinic and I ask them, how long do you think you're lasting in your partner? I mean, people don't know. It's not like on a routine basis they have a stopwatch next to their bed. So even if they say within 30 seconds or a minute, I don't know how often that's actually true.
Yeah. Agree, 100%. And that's been our experience in market research as well. And that's where, from a company standpoint and from a marketing standpoint, we want to get away from the time element, right? It's about satisfaction in your relationship. How does ejaculating early, whether that's 4 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 minute, impact your relationship?
Excellent. So for people watching, if you want to last longer, this episode is for you.
Yeah, and one thing, Amy, I just want to make sure I'm clear up front is that from a FDA indication that we're approved from, we don't have yet the specific indication to treat premature ejaculation. As a company, that's our mission and what we're trying to do. But from our first product perspective, more, we don't have that indication. And we can talk about that later. But our intended use is to improve or enhance sexual performance. That's what the FDA indication for us is. And that's very broad, right? I mean, that
Mhm.
can reference all kinds of different things. So I just want to make sure I don't get in trouble by trying to say that more can treat premature ejaculation. We don't have that claim yet.
Mhm.
We're working on it, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that.
Yeah, and thank you for clarifying that. And I feel like every viral headline online is like, do you want to perform better and have better sexual experiences? So I think you're right on target there. So let's kind of go back a little bit. I want to learn a little bit about your background in the med tech space. So what companies have you worked for in the past, and how might those experiences have inspired you starting this company?
Yeah, I've got over 25 years of experience in the medical device space, all in product marketing. So I'm the type of person that likes to work with customers, physicians, identify unmet needs, take those needs to the engineering team, work together to figure out a product solution, and then launch that. And I started my career at Medtronic, where I was in the pain management area, where I managed an implantable product for chronic pain. These electrodes were put in the spinal cord area, and it was powered by an implantable battery, and signals were sent from the spinal cord up to the brain that masked the chronic pain. So that was the first experience I had in electrical energy being used to treat various different conditions, whether that's Parkinson's, whether it's overactive bladder, whether it's arrhythmias, whether it's ejaculation. I then went to Boston Scientific, where I spent 14 years there in a variety of roles, to include urology. I actually managed the BPH green light laser therapy for BPH, which was a lot of fun. And that's where I got exposed to sexual medicine and some of the unmet needs that exist in sexual medicine. And I had this idea percolating in my head for a while about, well, if electrical energy can be used to manage chronic pain or Parkinson's, why not use it to control ejaculation? Because ejaculation is all about a neural response, as you know, versus erection, it's about blood flow in and out of the penis. We're not doing anything to address blood flow. But that neural response, what if I had a patch that we could wear down there that somehow inhibited the neuromodulation signal? So approached the urologist at the time about the idea, and he was like, Jeff, brilliant idea. More importantly, do you understand how big of a problem this is? And I said, well, I know I'd like to last longer sometimes. And he said, well, 30% of the men can't last more than 2 minutes in the bedroom. I'm like, come on, be honest with me. We're friends here. He's like, that's my point, is men don't like to talk about it. And I, as a doctor, I don't really like to bring it up because I'm not happy with existing treatments. So that was kind of that aha moment to say, wow, I mean, this is an opportunity. And really the second aha moment was we were one of four companies that Procter and Gamble invited to Las Vegas to pitch in their first ever innovation challenge. And everybody knows Procter and Gamble, multi-billion-dollar consumer goods brand, right? And here I was in their booth at the stage at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas saying penis, ejaculation, vagina. It was like, and we won the pitch. We ended up winning the pitch. So that was like, holy cow, if Procter and Gamble can be interested in this and allow me to say the word ejaculation in their booth, why can't anybody be interested in it? So that was that moment to say, I got to do this full time. This is not a side project. This is a full time endeavor. And here we are over 5 years later, finally got FDA approval earlier this year and are now in the early stages of commercialization.
Wow, that's amazing. So Jeff, you're like the face of premature ejaculation, which I really love. Now, that's not me just saying that, right? I think Jimmy Kimmel said that. Did what was that experience like? He made fun of you on national television.
He made fun of me and the product on national television, and I had no idea what was going to happen. We had issued a press release at the Consumer Electronics Show introducing our brand, which you see behind us, and progress on the company. And one of his producers apparently got a hold of the press release and pitched the monologue team. And he actually has a monologue team that writes for him about him talking about this. And he must have said yes. But they never reached out to us. They didn't ask for permission. They used publicly information that's available. So, Amy, you should be careful what you say publicly because you may be next, in Jimmy Kimmel, or Saturday Night Live or Howard Stern. But it was one of those moments like you'll never forget where you were. I remember it was a Thursday night. I woke up Friday morning and my phone's buzzing. And my commercial advisor at the time is like, Jeff, you and the company just got roasted last night on Jimmy Kimmel. And I'm like, what? Oh my God, I got to see this video. So I went and I finally saw it. And I'm like, this is gold. He's for a minute, 46 seconds, he's talking about our product, he's making fun of me, and he acknowledged that early ejaculation is an issue, which was super important. He closed with that, so that acknowledgement, and from that, what I've learned, Amy, is that this is a topic, as you know, you got to joke about it before people are willing to, put down their hands and have a serious conversation. And I think that's, what the Jimmy Kimmel thing really showed is that here's a national comedian, talking about sexual wellness, making fun of me, which is fine. If people want to make fun of me, I'll take it. I'm the face of premature ejaculation, I guess. But again, it just really focuses on the need to be creative and laugh about it before that serious topic can occur.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely all in the messaging and the tone and the words that we use. Oftentimes when I'm in my clinic, a lot of men are not necessarily coming in with the chief concern or complaint of premature ejaculation. They might be coming in with erectile dysfunction. And somewhere in that conversation, I'll say, any ejaculatory or orgasm concerns, like any concerns lasting too long or having an orgasm too soon. And it kind of makes it just normalizes the conversation. And some guys will say, no, no issues with orgasm, no issues with ejaculation. Other guys will say, yeah, I'm not sure. I had a patient yesterday actually who said he was coming to see me for erectile dysfunction and said, I don't know if I have premature ejaculation because when I get an erection, I'm not sure how long it's going to last. So I just go at it because it's a limited period of time, that my erection is going to last. And so he's like, so I don't know. I think once we restore my erectile function, then I'll have a better idea if I have premature ejaculation, and then we might need to address that.
Yeah, 100%. And that's an example, I think, and then again, I'm not a clinician, but
Mhm.
I think that's an example of a man that's maybe been dealing with this for a long period of time, right? So in his head, he's got this thing like, well, no, if I can get an erection, I'm going to ejaculate early because that's what I've always done. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way moving forward. And there's options out there to treat this individual. But I think that's, very a good example of what probably thousands and millions of men are facing.
Oh yeah, I hear it all the time, right? If there's a limited amount of time that the person thinks he'll be able to maintain his erection, he just goes at it like the rabbit behind you. And then he has an orgasm too soon because there's just so much intense stimulation so quickly that he can't hold it back. So let's now delve into the technology behind the MOR patch. And I want you to maybe show everyone what the patch looks like, how it works, and how someone might apply it.
Sure. Well, the fundamental technology has been used successfully and safely for hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, and it's basically using TENS, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. So you can go to Target and Walmart and buy one of these TENS units off the shelf and hook it up to your back or your thigh or whatever to deal with muscle pain or soreness. So that's the fundamental technology. What we've done is we've taken that and we've miniaturized it into a wireless format. So what we have in terms of the product is this is kind of the brains behind it. This is what we call the pulse generator. And inside of this is the Bluetooth chip, the rechargeable battery, all the electronics necessary to deliver electrical pulses. So this is reusable and rechargeable. We've got a charger here, much like an iPod charger, where you open this lid up and then this just sits into it. And when it's plugged into a USB cable, it's charging, but this is also where you store this. So after each intercourse event, you simply take the pulse generator and you clean it with, according to our instructions. And FDA was very precise on what language we needed to put in our user manual for cleaning, so please follow that. But then this, again, reusable, and what it attaches to is a single-use patch. So this is the patch, and on the skin-facing side of this patch, there's 4 electrodes. And when we take the pulse generator and snap it into the patch, it's literally like a ski binding fitting. That then is placed, the skin side is placed on the perineum between the scrotum and the anus. So imagine that this palm is the perineum. You just simply put it into place, and it's strong enough to hold in place, but gentle enough and flexible enough where as the body moves, the medical tape is moving as well. And then when you ejaculate, you simply take it off. You're not ripping skin, you're not ripping hair off, and then you take off the pulse generator, clean it, and then this is disposed of. So that's the basics behind it, but the idea being that when these skin-facing electrodes are being delivered energy, we're delivering that energy across this field here in different patterns, which you have the control to do. And it's inhibiting or in effect turning down the volume of nerve activity from the penis to the brain temporarily because we know, again, ejaculation is all about a neural response. So that's kind of the theory behind it. Again, TENS based units, using medical tape, using this pulse generator that just snaps into place, and again, that conformability. So uh, that's essentially it. We include the charger. We include a nice little travel case where people can carry everything, and then everything is shipped to the customer in a discrete box. So in this, it's a starter kit, we call it. It has 6 patches, one pulse generator, one charger, and user instructions. We're working on a version of the package that's branded, but we've heard from many men, like, I don't want a branded. I want a discrete package that people don't need to know what I'm
There's
getting.
literally nothing on it. You cannot
Literally
get any
nothing.
more discreet.
That we got that on the back, but it's kind of, I
Hmm.
mean, you think of the Apple phone, right? I mean,
Hmm.
they have a white box and just the Apple logo. So, the jury's still out, if you will, on whether or not we should have a branded package versus a plain package. I'm curious your thoughts. What do you think? Is the discrete nature something that we need to make sure we focus on?
Well, that's a really good question. I sell some product in my clinic. I find that when I can show someone a product that I recommend and they can purchase it right from my clinic, they like walking out the door with it. So I put it like whatever, let's say they're getting a vibrator or a vacuum pump. The packaging is not always discreet, but I'll put it in a discreet gift bag so no one would see it. And because they're taking it home and they're bringing it in their car, I don't know that the discrete packaging matters perhaps as much because they have full control over that item as soon as they leave my office. Versus if someone were to order a product, and let's say someone is used to opening up their packages at home before they get to it, that's where I think maybe that discrete packaging would be more beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. And again, if it's roughly 50-50 split, I mean, half the guys are saying, yeah, if I'm paying, $299 for your starter kit, I want that package to look cool and, be technology focused. But on the other hand, many guys are saying, I don't want people knowing this. Just give me something discreet and the magic's inside the box. I don't care what the outside looks like. I care about what's inside.
Well, here's a question. Can people choose what box they want?
Not yet, but
Yeah.
that's something absolutely we can do, right? Choose discrete, choose not. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things we want to do in the future is change the color of this patch. We've had many requests, can you have different skin tones? Or on the playful side of things, what if we put candy canes in here where it's your Christmas version of it, or shamrocks, it's your lucky St. Patrick's Day theme. So yes, we can print whatever we want on this, to include different skin tones. So this is generation one. A few years from now, it's not going to look like this, right? It's going to be smaller footprint and have different options where you can print on it. So again, it kind of gets to that playful yet serious tone and brand that we want to convey out there.
Yeah. And I think it also kind of begs the question, do people that use this device want us to medicalize it, or do they want it to be more in the pleasure space? And I think that's going to be very different depending on the person. So some people I think are going to want it to be as discreet as possible when it's worn on their body and kind of blend into their skin. Whereas I see other people being like, let's just put it out there. I want to last as long as possible. Let's just put those candy canes on this patch. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, completely agree. And that's where, from our market segmentation, initially the company, we were thinking, well, this is all about a prescription-based product. You have to go to the doctor, you're going to have to get a prescription. And then we realized, well, no, that's maybe not the right way to go. So we got approval from the FDA for over the counter, meaning that we can sell it directly to consumers without a physician prescription. So that's what we have today. And we don't want the product to be seen as a medical device in the sense that you have to go to the doctor to get a prescription, because many guys are not going to do that, right? I mean, you know that better than me. But on the other hand, we don't want to be considered a sex toy. And nothing wrong with sex toys. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? But we don't want to be kind of in that niche, if you will. So we're kind of in this center category where we're not a medical device, we're not a sex toy, we're about pleasure enhancement and really focusing on the couple, because ultimately, if someone ejaculates early, it's their partner who's not being satisfied. Whether that partner is male or female, we don't care. Their partner's not being satisfied. If someone lasts 30 seconds, that partner's like, really? That's it? There's disappointment, frustration, et cetera, that we're really trying to solve there.
Yeah, so it's kind of if it's somewhere in the middle, it's kind of like, isn't there a Britney Spears song like "No Longer a Girl, Not Yet a Woman" or something?
I'll take
Not
your word on that.
fan.
I'm not a big Britney Spears fan, but I'm not up on that. But maybe next karaoke, I'll give that a try.
So, one of my colleagues who runs a high-end sexual wellness company called Stimulate the Trade Show, her name is Nicole, and she talks about this concept of taking someone from purpose to pleasure. And I think that's exactly what this product is doing is someone is getting this to fill a specific need, right? To enhance their pleasure or to last longer. And it really helps with both, like a medical condition and a pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
I love
Oh,
that.
yeah, I love that as well. And one of the things that we found in our early feasibility study was not only were men reporting an increase in time before ejaculation, but several reported an intensification of it. And I felt that early on in testing the product, and I kind of blew it off to being biased. But then I heard it again and again and again, and I went to our technical advisor and I said, "Does this make sense?" And he said, "Yeah, it does, especially if the patch is placed more towards the anus because that's where the prostate is. The prostate's surrounded by smooth muscle. You probably get more muscle contractions, which leads to this greater expulsion." And it's like, holy cow, that's every guy in the world. I mean, who wouldn't want to experience a more intense ejaculation if you could get it? And we weren't looking for that. That was a surprise. We stumbled upon it. And it's kind of like, as you know, the Viagra story. Viagra was never developed for erectile dysfunction. It was a hypertension drug. And same thing with us. Now it's like, well, we've got this pleasure product, right? This ejaculation enhancement. I mean, I'm 56 years old. I mean, if I could, have that feeling as a 20-year-old again, that'd be great. Or if men as they age, as you know, they lose that intensification. So do we have this platform now that we can kind of message around, like you haven't experienced an orgasm until you've had a morgasm. Um, Maybe there's something there, and maybe that market's larger than early ejaculation because
Mm.
it's really about that pleasure side of things. And then, oh, by the way, you get this benefit of lasting longer.
Jeff, I'm loving where this conversation is going. So you're telling me that Nugget was spared in the testing of this device, but Jeff was not.
Oh, I was not, unfortunately, and I've got a good supportive family. I call my wife my chief support officer, and she's been great. And we're actually going to be attending the Stimulate meeting. She's going to be there working the booth, so she's a great sport. But honestly, it took me a while to get comfortable with it. I mean, how do I tell my friends, my coworkers, others that I'm going to quit my good paying job and stock options and be the face of premature ejaculation? Like, what? Am I going to do that? So it took me a while to get comfortable with that. But once I did, it was nothing but support. So I haven't had anybody yet, knock on wood, that said, "What are you doing? You're wasting your time. This is
Mhm.
not an opportunity." It's been quite the opposite.
Yeah. So you made a very interesting comment, and you were in the context of talking about premature ejaculation, also talking about delayed ejaculation or muted pleasure or muted orgasms. I agree with that comment 100%. More often in my office, I see guys that come in that say, my orgasms aren't quite what they used to be, or it's taking a long time to reach climax. And those are some of the most frustrated patients I see in the clinic. And in part because we have really no options to help those guys. So every time I see a guy like that in my office, I'm like really throwing the kitchen sink at them. I'm trying all these different therapies off label. And I think when most of those guys go in to see a healthcare provider, like what's their problem, right? Maybe they don't have ED. They're able to orgasm and ejaculate. They just have some reduced sensation. I mean, I imagine a lot of those people will say, okay, hey, that's what happens when you're 56.
Right.
That's what happens when you get older. And I see it as if that's a concern of yours and you want something to make it a little bit better, is there something that I can offer you? Whether or not someone actually has a problem. But I agree. I think that's actually affecting more people.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't affect someone, why wouldn't you want to have more pleasure, experience more pleasure if you had that opportunity? And there's just been nothing in the male sexual space that's been focused on that or offered that versus on the female side of things, as you know, I mean, vibrators have been used for years and millions of them sold to help with orgasm, whether it's intensity or getting the female to an orgasm. So, what we're looking at and what we have, not looking at, what we have today is that male vibrator equivalent, if you will, which can really intensify it. So again, it happened by accident. We weren't looking for it, but now it's like, okay, how do we change the message? How do we change the approach? And because this be a home run in and of itself around
Yeah.
the pleasure and gratification.
So Jeff, let's go into the deets here. How does someone prepare their perineum before applying the patch?
Well, you got to do some manscaping down there for sure. We recommend clipping, not shaving. If you shave, there's a risk that you could nick and cut the skin. And if you deliver electrical energy through cut skin, that's going to hurt. So you don't shave, but you clip to 2 to 4 millimeters. Make sure it's clean, free of any oils, and then you go ahead and apply the patch. Now, one of the things that I think is important to mention from our perspective is that this isn't a product for a 20-some-year-old, guy looking to hook up with someone with a one night stand. No, I mean, because that person is probably going to say, "What are you doing? What are you putting where? No, 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 no. I'm out of here." Right? So it may defeat the purpose of what he's trying to accomplish. Instead, our marketing segment initially are couples in committed relationships that have or are using sex toys. And why sex toys? Well, they've already had that conversation. They're open to bringing something new into the bedroom. And couples, this is about couples, right? It's about partner satisfaction. It's about working on this together, because one of the things that I try to tell people is that I guarantee that the first time that you use this patch, it's probably not going to work as you want it. You're not going to have the position right. You're not going to have the right settings, but that's okay. If you're someone that wants to run a marathon, which I'm not, but if I did, I'd have to train. I'd have to use several different training events to get from 1 mile to 26 miles. Same thing here. It's not an overnight magic bullet that's going to work right away. There's that settings that you have to figure out. So once you've got that figured out, and that should be something that you get your partner involved with. This should be a shared experience. Have that partner use the app and play with different settings and have fun with it. Incorporate it as part of the foreplay experience. And then over time, yes, you'll get more comfortable with it. You'll have the settings right, and then it's go time.
So how many sessions might it take someone before they get comfortable with it?
That's a great question. And that's something that we're trying to evaluate post-market. Now that we can sell the product, we're going to be collecting a lot of data from our consumers on questions such as that, as well as overall efficacy. But we include 6 patches in our starter kit. And we think in our experience so far is after 6, you'll have enough experience with it where you'll be able to give some sort of guidance on here's the settings that work for me, and continue to use those moving forward. And the big unknown, Amy, that we've heard many physicians hypothesize that maybe over time, repeated use of this will allow someone not to have to wear a patch every time because the brain is being retrained. Don't have any data on that. Purely a speculation, purely hypothesis. But if that happens, then great. Some people have said, well, there goes your business model. You're not going to sell as many patches. And my feedback is, well, not necessarily. The adoption rate will grow at a faster rate if people know that they only have to wear it 6, 10, 12, 20 times before their problem quote is fixed. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of that brain retraining?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. I mean, I even think for some of the other technologies that we use, like a delay spray, for example, which is used in the acute moment that someone is trying to last longer to desensitize the tissue. I think those therapies over time can also, someone can retrain their body to last longer. I think in many circumstances, once someone can perform the way that they want to and they develop that confidence in the bedroom, the largest sex organ is the brain. And so I think when their body can overall change, they may not need it every time. So even if, maybe 50% of the time they use a patch or a delay spray, but it may not even mean that they need it every time. So I agree with you. Yeah, and I'll be curious to see, if it does help retrain the body. So I've used a TENS unit before, and that's why I was so fascinated by this technology, because when I was actually on faculty at the University of Iowa, I went to a big research meeting, and one of the presenters is a world-renowned researcher in TENS units. And at the time, I was trying to figure out how to best treat men with chronic scrotal content pain or testicular pain. And so then I was actually working on a study using TENS therapy to help with chronic scrotal pain. And so I was already familiar with this. So I've put it on my body before and I know what it feels like. And it kind of feels like a little bit of a tingle. It's not painful. I think with most TENS technologies, when I speak to people in that space, they tend to say, most times when people say TENS doesn't work, it's because they're not dialing it up high enough. The
Right.
settings aren't correct, because I think people are scared it's going to hurt. You don't want it to hurt, right? If it hurts, it's too high, and then you back right down. But I don't know that everyone gets up to the optimal settings. So for you, when you apply this, especially to the sensitive area of the perineum, what does it feel like?
Yeah, it's that tingling sensation. It's not any sort of shocking sensation. We don't say the word shock within the company. We are not shocking anybody's balls. We're not shocking the perineum. We are delivering electrical impulses that inhibit the normal neural response. So it is very much a tingling or tickle feeling. Now, the beauty of the approach that we're taking is that we give the user the control to change amplitude, frequency, pulse width, how we deliver the energy across the patch. And some may say, well, we have too many settings, but we're trying to figure out what are the right ones post-market. So in the future, we'll have more guidance on what are the right settings. But for now, we really want that user to experience what works for them. And to your point, what we guide them and coach them on is take the level of stimulation up to a level where you just start to feel it and then kind of back down from there. And then as you're using it more, then you can increase it, but just increase it till we begin to feel it. And then the body natural neural system kind of takes over and you get that sensory adaptation where maybe you feel it initially, but then once you start having intercourse, maybe you need to turn it up a little bit because you're no longer feeling it. It's kind of like jumping into a hot shower. You're not going to go in there automatically with cranked it high, but if you gradually work that temperature up, it's going to feel okay. And same thing with tens and same thing with our product.
Mhm. And so, just to clarify, the entire time that someone is engaging in sexual activity, this device is on. It's not just on when they're approaching climax.
No, it's on the entire time. Yeah, you put it on, prior to penetration. You activate it with with a smartphone app, or you can activate it manually. And then while you're having intercourse, it's delivering electrical stimulation, and it doesn't stop until you stop and you take it off. So yes, during the entire time period, it's during intercourse, it's being used.
What's the battery life once it's charged?
2 hours.
Mhm.
So plenty of time there. And again, that's that time element of it is, part of what we're trying to do is set expectations, right? If you're a guy that's going from 30 seconds and you want to go to 10 minutes, probably not going to happen. And more importantly, your partner probably doesn't want 10 minutes of penetration as much as you think she or he may want. That's likely not going to happen. And also, if your goal is to get your partner to orgasm through longer penetration, probably not going to happen. It's less than 20% of women can orgasm through penetration alone. I don't need to tell you that. But those are the expectations that we're trying to set with men. And if they're not willing to accept that, we honestly don't want them as a customer because you're not helping us, you're not helping yourself. You got to go into this with the right expectations.
Now, if someone is first trying out this product, do you recommend they use it first during masturbation?
We recommend that they first put it on their forearm, put it on their inner forearm because you've got two radial nerves that run up and down the forearm, which is very similar to the dorsal nerves of the penis. So it's kind of a surrogate, if you will, to the penis. So you put it on your inner forearm, get a sense of what amplitude feels like, pulse width, etc. And then if you want to take it to a masturbation setting, then yes, that would be a good next step. Or you could go right into having your partner involved with it. But we really think it's important that try it on your forearm first, and we know people are going to be excited, right? They're going to get the package in the mail, they're going to open it up, they're going to slap it on their perineum, and they're going to want to get going. Well, no, you got to ready set slow, right? Ready set slow. Get excited about it. You should be excited about it. Get your partner involved in kind of experimenting with you, and then enjoy the experience.
So there are other technologies and therapies that we use to help men last longer, including like delay sprays, SSRI medications, pelvic floor physical therapy, sex therapy, medications like Cialis to help with the erectile function. How might your device be used maybe in combination with any of those therapies?
Yeah, well, I mean, there would have to be some FDA clearance for that, right? If we're going to make those claims. But I think, I don't know what the right first line therapy is, if you will.
Mhm.
I know physicians such as yourself, you'll either go SSRIs or just delay sprays or creams first. I don't know if our patch is considered that first line therapy. We'll see over time. Well, we would love it to be the case because you look at drugs, for example. I mean, they're not approved by the FDA for premature ejaculation. They're being used as antidepressants or off label. And to me, I still wonder, like, wow, I mean, that's pretty bold that you're prescribing antidepressants to cure premature ejaculation. And then you've got all the other side effects associated with antidepressants. And then on the spray and cream side, well, they work and there's a lot of them. the reality is you need time for that to absorb. So that spontaneity, that quick acting, perhaps that's not there with the delay sprays and creams. And I know there's plenty of them out there, and I'm not trying to, bash them at all because they work, and in some cases they work too well. So I think we're just one more option, depending upon what a guy wants. And many men, including myself, want to not take pills or drugs. You just don't want to do
Mhm.
that. And
Yeah.
the delay sprays, if there's a risk that can rub off on the partner, I don't know if I'm really great about that. But
Mhm.
with our patch, there's some limitations. I mean, if you're a very heavy obese guy, it's not going to work. There's going to be too much fat down there. I could put a car battery connected to that, and you're probably not going to have enough electrical penetration to get through. Men that have implanted products, whether they're pacemakers or defibrillators, they're not right candidates. So there are some people that are not going to be candidates for our product, much like they are with pills or sprays and creams.
Yeah, so I am not a fan of SSRIs, even though they are well within our AUA guidelines as a treatment option off label for premature ejaculation. And what I see in my clinic is there's not a single treatment that is going to work for everyone. And in the discussion with my patients, and we talk about masturbation trainers and delay sprays and TENS, people just, once they hear all the different options on the menu, they self select which ones they want to try. And sometimes, I love building the toolbox because if you have a broken pipe in your house, the time, to get the toolbox ready is not once the pipe breaks. It's you already want the toolbox so you can mitigate some of the damages, right? And so I describe this to my patients as we can build your toolbox as robust as you want to build it because if you have a problem or it's coming into a Saturday night and you really want to perform, that's not a time to call me, right? The time is let's build this toolbox beforehand so you can go into the weekend and you can select, depending on the type of sex you want to have, which tool is going to work for you. But I love asking or telling my patients, like this in particular, define the type of sex you want to have, and that will dictate the type of tool that you need. So, like you mentioned, if someone wants spontaneous sex within the next couple minutes, they want to be penetrating. That's maybe right there where they just put this, patch on. Or if someone is in a new relationship and they're dating, they probably aren't going to want to wear a patch. Maybe that's where they excuse themselves to the restroom and use a delay spray. So I love that these items, I do think they can be used in combination with each other, even though that's not something that you've studied, but also on different days of the week and different times of the day. So I love that menu that you're building.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that because again, I can't say that this is the right product for everybody. It's not, right? And just like sprays and pills are not for that. And I look at the female side of things and how many different variations and sizes and shapes of vibrators are there for various different anatomies or goals, right? So, there's not one magic vibrator out there. And same thing with delayed ejaculation. There's not going to be one tool that's going to solve all the needs. So, um, you know, how this fits into the algorithms that the societies are going to say, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, that's something that we're going to work on post-market. And we've kind of taken the approach of we didn't have to go to the FDA with clinical efficacy data because we weren't seeking a specific disease indication, i.e. premature ejaculation. FDA considers premature ejaculation a disease. So if we wanted that indication, then we would have had to submit human clinical data. We went to get the indication of enhance or improve sexual performance. And all we needed to do, I shouldn't say all, it was a lot of work, was to do the biocompatibility testing, the cybersecurity testing to make sure that our app was hack proof. All this data we had to submit to the FDA. Now what we want to do is go back post-market and collect data to expand the indication to get that premature ejaculation claim at some point. Now, do we really need it? Maybe not, but I think from a physician community perspective, we lack any peer-reviewed literature on this right now. We want to have that. We want to have publications. We want people like yourself to be at AUA, SMSNA, talking about this and showing that real-world data. We don't have that yet, but we're
Mhm.
going to get it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges for a company like yours is even though a lot of us go into urology because we're early innovators and adopters of new technologies, it's also really challenging to change the clinical practice of a healthcare provider. And that's where if you have some studies, it can really help us change our practice because we have something to quote, to patients and our colleagues about the efficacy.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that's
love, and I know this is a lot of work that you're doing. So I applaud all the behind the scenes work that you're doing.
oh, thanks. Yeah, and that's, again, it's really about who we're trying to market to. And that's part of the reason why we decided to go direct to consumer is that we knew that if we were to launch initially to physicians, we're gonna need data, right? Peer reviewed data, et cetera. But if we go to consumer, consumers in general don't buy on data, they buy on emotion. And if we can get them to see that there's another option out there, buy it, it's safe, and have some data, then we'll collect that data over time to support the physician community.
Mhm. Awesome. So let's wrap up here because you've definitely gone into a lot of the details. And I feel like when I see patients in the clinic, I now have a better understanding of how to explain this technology. Because oftentimes with innovative therapies, if we don't actually give our patients the details of how to use it, they're not going to actually optimize its use. And then they're going to come back and say it doesn't work when maybe they just didn't know all the different tips and tricks. So, in terms of future directions for the company, you're currently looking at the post-market stuff. You're going to try to publish some research on this. Are there any like upcoming clinical trials that you have planned?
Not formal clinical studies
Mhm.
and how you would define it, but we are doing a post-market study on this intensification benefit, trying to see how real it is and how people respond to that. So we're going to be recruiting 300 people to participate in this enhancement study. And again, there's no hard endpoints other than subjectively, did this increase the intensification of the ejaculation? Yes, no. If so, by how much? So I don't think we'll get any peer-reviewed data. Could we get a poster at AUA? Maybe. But that's kind of what we have ongoing right now. And then depending upon funding coming in, because funding's always been a challenge for startups, and especially in the sexual health and wellness, there's not a lot of traditional venture capital companies that are going to want to invest in sexual health and wellness. So that's been a challenge and continues to remain a challenge for us. But once we get that funding, then yes, we'll be doing another clinical or a clinical study, I should say, to get indication expansion for PE.
Okay, wonderful. So, where can people find out more about your product and technology?
Yeah, we've got a website, yourmor.com, yourmor.com. And the idea behind the more name, Amy, is that so many people ask me, does this work? And I'm like, it works for me. I don't know if it works for you. I don't have your body. I don't have, your issues that you're dealing with. I got my own issues maybe, but not what you're dealing with. But the name more is, I can't tell you what your more is. I don't know if you want more time, more intensity, more communication, more intensification. Honestly, I don't know. I don't care what your more is. I don't want to know. I care. I don't want to know. But you and your partner now have a product where you can go and figure out your more and let us know what works. So yourmore.com is our e-commerce site. We've got FAQs. We got an overview of how the product works. We've got some animation that Jimmy Kimmel used in his show. So that would be a site really to become educated on it, yourmore.com. And then from there, we'll continue to build that out. We want to have a more of an education focused page where it's kind of more informed. So you can kind of see a trend here with the More name. There's a lot of fun things that we can do with the name More that really resonates with the brand and the products that we're trying to develop.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise with us today. I'm fascinated by this technology. I believe in the science behind TENS units because I've seen it help my patients for other indications. And what I tell a lot of my patients is you really can't hurt anyone with a TENS unit. That's the beauty of it, right? And at the end of the day, when I decide what therapy to offer a patient, I tell my patients this several times a day. The efficacy is not the leading factor on whether or not I offer an intervention. It is the safety profile. Because if something is very effective, but the intervention could hurt someone, and if I can't, especially if I can't fix it, if the intervention hurts someone, which can happen with some of the SSRI medications with a condition like post SSRI sexual dysfunction, that really discourages me from offering that therapy. But if something is less effective, right, but it's safe and you really can't hurt anyone with it, that's where I feel more comfortable offering these interventions to my patients. So I think that's kind of what you're describing here is the safety profile is incredible. And I think it's worth a try for a lot of people looking to experience better sexual health.
Yeah, and that's the FDA clearance. I mean, we got
Yeah.
a safety clearance from the FDA, and they didn't ask for a lot of new efficacy data because TENS, to your point, has been proven to be safe and effective in so many other applications. So the FDA was comfortable of it being a technology platform. And the amount of energy that we're delivering compared to what you can buy as a TENS unit is
Hmm.
far less, far less. So that safety profile is actually better than what a traditional TENS unit can be. And then you don't have all the wires hanging out, which doesn't necessarily make for a romantic setting when you got wires and cables coming out of your perineum or your taint, or as my son calls it, the gooch. So
No, we don't want wires coming out of the taint or the gooch. So on that note, Jeff, thank you for your time today.
thank you. Appreciate it.